Welcome to Getting Started with Excel Formulas. If you're new to Excel and are trying to figure out how formulas work, or even if you've been using Excel for a while, sometimes it helps to return to fundamentals, which can build your skills even stronger than before. In this video, we'll be talking about 4 things: how to start a formula, the basic mathematical operators, how to refer to other cells from your formulas, and then we'll finish off by touching on the 5 most common functions that you'll find in Excel, especially as you're getting started. Let's get into it. How to start an Excel formula. So here we are in Excel. What we're going to do now is we're going to try and type a formula and see what happens. So we'll type 10 plus 2, 10 plus 2, and press enter. You'll notice that the text goes into the cell and it's aligned to the left, but it's not treating it as a function. Whenever you try and type a function in Excel, you need to begin with a special symbol. That symbol, the equal sign. So let's try that again. We're going to type right over this, equal sign 10 plus 2, and press enter. An equal sign is what we need whenever we start any function in Excel. Without that equal sign, Excel will make its best guess at what you're typing, and most of the time it'll just end up being regular text. Now we're going to talk about the mathematical operators. More than likely, you're already familiar with math from school. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division are built right into Microsoft Excel, and you can access them using the following 4 symbols. So if I click here on a cell, I'm going to type an equal sign, and I'll type 10 plus 2. The plus sign is the mathematical operator for addition. For subtraction, we're going to type an equal sign, 10 minus 2, and press enter. 10 minus 2 is 8. The minus sign, or the hyphen, is the symbol that you use for subtraction. For multiplication, it's the asterisk. So we're going to type an equal sign, 10 asterisk 2, and then press enter, and you'll see that multiplies to 20. And for division, it's the slash. We're going to type an equal sign, 10 slash 2. That does division for us just like that. Now what we're going to talk about is something called the order of operations. You may recall from when you learned math back in school that whenever there's multiplication or division, you do that first, and then after that, if there's addition or subtraction, you do that next. Excel knows the order of operations. It will evaluate formulas based on whether or not they're parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and then finally it'll do addition and subtraction. So how will Excel evaluate this formula over here? Well, 2 times 3, it'll do that first. That'll be 6. Plus, it's going to wait. It's going to do 4 times 5, which is 20. So we have 6 and we have 20, and then it'll do the addition. 20 plus 6 is 26. So if we do equal sign 2 asterisk 3 plus 4 asterisk 5, press enter, the answer is 26. So that's your mathematical operators, and that's the order of operations. You can kick things up a notch by referring to cells that contain the data that you care about. We're going to refer to the cell that contains the weight, and we'll refer to the cell that contains the cost. So we're going to type an equal sign, and we're just going to click on this cell that contains the weight, and you'll see that Excel is referring to this cell as B2. It's in column B, row 2, that's cell B2. Then we're going to do our mathematical operator. So we're typing an asterisk. And then finally, we're going to click on this other cell here that contains the cost, which allows us to say, I'd like the number 2 times whatever's in cell C2, which is 131. And then when I press enter, it does the math for us. And you can see that by referring to what's in the cell, we can later on change what's in this cell, make it 2.5. And then when we press enter, the function will reevaluate and we get a new answer. So referring to other cells is a great way to make your formulas more dynamic. Let's try that again. We're going to hit equal sign here. We're going to click on this guy, type the multiplication symbol, press on the cost, and then press enter, and there we go. You might be saying to yourself, wait a minute, I've just typed that same formula twice. What if I have like 50 different kinds of items in my grocery list and I want to copy that formula so I don't have to type it over and over again? You can do that. The important thing to understand before you start copying formulas is the kind of reference that you're using, the way that you're referring to the cell. If we double click on this cell here, you'll see that it's referring to cells B3 and C3. By default, Excel uses something called a relative reference to refer to these other cells. Relative references don't really matter if you're not copying formulas, but as soon as you start copying formulas around, those references make a big difference. So you can see here, this is B3 times C3. If I copy this by pressing Control C, and then if I paste this by right-clicking and choosing the first paste option, you'll see that the numbers are different. If I double-click in this cell here, you'll see this row is B4 and C4. Excel is smart enough to know that if the first formula refers to rows 3, then when I copy one row down, the relative change is one row down. So the 3 becomes a 4 automatically. A lot of times this is what I want, but sometimes this is not what I want. Let's take a look at how the taxes work here. So I'm going to type an equal sign here, and what I want is to take the price, D2, and multiply it by the tax amount here. Click on that and press enter. What happens if I copy this formula? Let me press copy and let me press paste. That doesn't look right. 2.39 times 10% doesn't look right. Let's find out what's going on. Well, first we can look in the formula bar and see what's happening here. But what I like to do is double click on the cell, and you'll see that D3, that part of the formula is right. And then J2, this is moved from J1 to J2. So if I go and look at the previous example of the formula, it's price times 10. And in this one, it's price times blank. What I'd like to do is use a different kind of reference so that I can tell Excel, look, as I copy my formula around, there are certain things that I don't want you to change, and there's certain things that you can change. So in this case, what I'd like to do is go back to my original formula, the one that I'm going to copy, and let's update it. There's a symbol that you can type in front of part of a cell reference to tell Excel, don't change this when I copy. Every cell refers to two things. It refers to the letter of the column, and it refers to number of the row. I'm copying up and down, so the row is the thing that might change. I don't want the row to change. I want the row to always be row number 1. So if I type a $sign in front of the number 1, that's going to tell Excel as I copy this formula. The J can change if I copy left or right. Copying up and down, just give me the number 1. Let's try that. I'm going to click here, press Control C, click here, press Control V, and that looks right. And if I double click here, you'll see that the formula is equals D2 times J $1. The $sign meaning stay locked on row 1. And as I go down here to the next cell, you'll see that it's D3 times J $1, which is great. And so I can continue to copy this function all the way down, and all of my items, they do exactly what they need to do. So that's a mixed reference where part of the cell reference has a $sign to lock it in place, and part of the cell reference doesn't have a $sign, which means that as you copy either left or right or up or down, depending on where the $sign is, it's allowed to change. An absolute reference takes it a step farther and says, as I copy left and right, I don't want the column to change. And as I copy up and down, I don't want the row to change either. An absolute reference will absolutely stay locked on that cell as you copy your formulas around. A lot of times people use relative references and they use absolute references, although there are situations where mixed references make sense too. So absolute reference, $sign, J $1. Relative reference, no $signs, J1. Mixed reference, $1 either $sign J1 or J $1. Now we're going to talk about the 5 most common functions that are accessible to everyone when they're in Excel off of the home ribbon. This right here in the editing part of the home ribbon is auto sum. And if you just click it, by default, it does the first thing, which is sum. Sum is to add a range of cells together. So if we wanted to find the total amount of weight that's in our basket here, we can click at the bottom of this column and we can just click auto sum. Excel will ask, is this the range that you're talking about? And in this case, that is the range that I'm talking about. You'll see here sum B2 colon B4. The colon means through. So that means add up all of the cells from B2. So that's B2, B3, and B4. You'll see that the total is 6.5. Next in the list is average. Average will add up all of the numbers in a range and then divide by the number of those items. So I'm going to click here on average at the cell where I want the formula to live. It's going to take the average of C2 through C4. And there's the average. The average cost is $1.89. The next in our list here is count numbers. So count numbers does as the name would imply. There may be situations where you want to count the number of numerical values that you have in a range. So let's do this. Let's highlight from strawberries over to the 70 cents here. And let's just see, that's one non-number and 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. So if I click here, the drop down, and I choose count numbers, it should put that answer to the right. Now it's expressing it as dollars, but we can see 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 items that are numbers. Let's take a look at the next one, max and min. Max will look at a range and it'll return you the biggest value in that range, the maximum value, and min does the opposite of that. Min looks at a range and it gives you the smallest number in that range. So if we click here for max, we would expect that under this range up here, max is 6.95. And then if we do this one, min, we would expect min to be what? 0.24. So those are the 5 functions that are built into Excel right off of the home ribbon. And this has been getting started with Excel formulas. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.